Hi, my name is Blanca Duarte, and I'm co-founder of LogicWing, a technology consulting company focused on helping people and organizations use technology to live, work, and learn. As a part of a web series that I've started to share some of my favorite web and online resources, we have Ralph Krauss with us today from Edutainment Learning, who is going to share with us what the resource is about, why he created it, and how it is valuable in helping children look at different types of careers and just in general find out more information about the world. Ralph and I had a conversation before the interview started where he had some great words of advice and kind of shared really what technology is supposed to be able to do, right? So technology can do a lot of things. It can automate tasks. It can make businesses run more efficiently. It can help students learn in different ways. We use it to create and deliver assessments, collect information, provide feedback, reflect, write, create. But at the end of the day, technology can also be a powerful way to inspire others, and we can use it to create content, to share interviews, to ask questions, and learn about things that we might not have otherwise learned about. So I just wanted to share a little clip of our conversation beforehand. I also shared with Ralph that in the beginning of my 20 plus year career in educational technology, this was something that I was very interested in. I did want to explore ways to help young people learn about different types of careers. I myself was not privy to a lot of different job options growing up. And so I really wanted to be able to find a way to help children get access to people that they could speak to about different types of jobs. And of course, the world has changed a lot in the last 20 years and in the last 50 years. And we have lots of different jobs that nobody could have predicted even 5 or 10 years ago. So it's even more important today, I think, to be able to help children find ways that they can contribute to society, even if they don't have access to those people or those experiences on a day-to-day basis. So I'll leave you with this little clip before the interview starts, and I hope that you come back again. Take a listen. As I was listening to people, I was like, wow, I know kids who would be interested in watching this. And very early on in my career in education, I really wanted to do something more like this, like being able to find mentors that were working in careers that could help children figure out if this was something they wanted to do with the rest of their lives. So anyway, so that being said, I was like, you know what? Let me ask Ralph if I can interview him and have him share just to refresh my memory, but also just to get content out there about what edutainment learning is all about, what the purpose behind it was, how it's being used today, things like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you for connecting with me. I think you said a lot of nice things, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's not measured on tests and stuff like that. And I think, yeah, there's obviously, like today we have National Fossil Day, so we have a bunch of scientists talking about paleontology. There's like tangible stuff, with math, 2 + 2 is 4, but there's that Dr. Seuss saying they might not remember what you taught them, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And so there's that SEL component that saturates a lot of these events. But it's more or less like, if I had to sum it up in one sentence, it's just an ever revolving career day throughout the year, with kids constantly thinking about what they want to do or what they want to be.
Hi, Ralph. How are you?
Hi, Blanca. How are you?
Good, thanks. So talk to me a little bit about what edutainment learning is.
It's just the name that it was coined at an ISTE, because I was like, I don't have a name for what I do. And it was originally like just video conferencing in the classroom, but this is like 2015. And so I didn't even have the ability, like the only way I could record them was through like a Screencastify or something like that. But obviously now with Zoom we can record. But it just came to where a guy I was working with me, he asked if, because I would physically bring in guest speakers to my classroom. And then I got this job with Nevada Ready 21 as a digital coach. And he said, hey, is there any way that you could connect me with someone who would be an expert, because the kids were learning about the assassination of President Kennedy. And so I connected to a gentleman by the name of Clint Hill, who was a Secret Service member, who was on the back of the car in the Zapruder film. He was the closest individual still alive to President Kennedy when he was assassinated. So he connected with us on Google Hangouts, and that was the very first one. And it was like you could hear a pin drop. My coworker was like, I think we're on to something, and like that was it. And I've since been fortunate enough to go beyond that of Pinecrest Academy in Nevada. Right now, I work in digital innovations for both Pinecrest Academy in Nevada and Academic Virtual Education, which is a network, of a really large network of charter schools around the country and even the world. But there's so much room in my Zoom rooms that they just said you could just invite. It's almost like a live studio audience. Obviously, they can't unmute themselves, so the ability to get Zoom bombed is not there, but people can attend as a live studio audience. It records, and then I edit that recording and place it in, with the permission of the guests, place it in a library separated by subject and content area to where people can refer back even after some of these guests unfortunately have passed on. But it'll forever be there. It's just kind of like a library of content.
That is great. So I was able to access that content by going to a link online, but is there more that maybe someone from the public doesn't see? Is there like a back end to it where kids have to sign in or anything?
No, not currently. Right now, you can access it just going to edutainmentlearning.com and just go to upcoming events for upcoming speakers or past events to see some of the past recordings. But again, all the Zoom rooms are secure. There's no ability for anyone to Zoom bomb. I've done over 1,000 of these with over 100,000 student participations. So I'm sure people have tried, but there's no way they can. So it's just fun for the students. It's fun for the guests. It's just a positive thing. And I think when they find out that I'm not charging the schools for these and that it's open to all, I think there's that guard kind of comes down with some of the guests, because I know that there are other companies that charge for it. But I've always kind of been a proponent of it shouldn't be the rich kids learning about the Holocaust or 9/11. It should be all kids, regardless of what's going on at their school socioeconomically.
How are teachers using the interviews? Like, do you get any insight? Do people call you and say, hey, I thought of this really cool way to incorporate the interviews into my lessons? Like, do you ever hear how people use it?
Yeah, I got so like KWL charts, like what they know, what they want to know, and what they learned from the event. Even if it was live or if it was like asynchronous, like a recording. I had a teacher yesterday stop me, and I was at one of the schools here in Nevada, and she said, "Oh well, she was really passionate about water conservation." And she was getting a little emotional, and she's like, I'm getting teary-eyed, but I showed it not only to my class, but she works with the Boy Scouts of America, and she showed it to their scout troop because we have a drought here in the desert, and you just don't think about it, and you're just kind of like, just go to the next one. And I'm not sure if you obviously probably have experience editing video, but it takes a while. So it's almost like an assembly line where you talk to the teachers, see what they want, you go, send out emails, 100 different emails to all these different people to find a couple people that would be a good fit, their schedule fits with the teacher. And then you schedule that date, you record it, do the interview, and then you take the post-production, that raw recording, edit titles and B-roll footage and all kinds of stuff, and then you push it out, and then you go on to the next one and go on to the next one. And so you kind of, not that it takes like the human element out of it, but you're always kind of thinking about, on to the next one. And there's obviously some that are more emotional than others. Like I said today, obviously the paleontology one isn't going to get anyone emotional, but we have a 9/11 speaker next week that will. And a couple weeks after that, Holocaust survivor. And so those ones you want to kind of go through a lot more delicately because it's someone's personal story about something very tragic and you want to be respectful of it. But yeah, I'll get random emails. I'll even get some that aren't even in English and I'll have to put it in Google Translate. And I got one from Japan the other day and it was just kind of neat. No one ever sees them, but I'm like, it's cool that I get to experience that.
How do people find you other than just coming across a link or maybe putting in career day in a Google search? Like, is it easy to find you? Do you have advertising?
For teachers, I'll just put the link out there. And then, like I said, I have a lot of great support from our network at Academica and all the Pinecrests here in Nevada. And Academica has been absolutely instrumental as far as pushing it out there with their distance education students, dual diploma students overseas. And then we have some of the local school districts here around the country that push it out occasionally. And social media is big as well. So it's kind of, in a way, it's like a 21st century grassroots kind of thing. But I know, like, my envision for this in the future is that obviously a nonprofit kind of scenario and situation where it's just open to everyone. It's just, mass amounts, and there's more than just myself doing those processes I discovered or I had described, where if you have multiple people, like if I do 100 of these in a year and we have a few people like me doing 100 of these every year, that's hundreds and hundreds per year. And then over a few years, it's thousands and thousands of videos of content, educational content, because there's 7.8 billion people on Earth. There's a lot of untaught lessons out there. There's a lot of untold stories that are absolutely invaluable. And I think that we've only begun to scratch the surface.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think it's really such a valuable service. It's also something that not every school or school district budget has resources for, right? So you may have a district that has 1 or 2 days a year where they invite people from the community to come in and speak to their students. So this particular program allows it to be like career day every day, right? And
absolutely,
I think it's super exciting, surprising that on a national or even international level that there aren't more programs like this.
There
right?
are, but they're more. Yeah, I won't name them by names, but there are some that are I refer to as pay for play, and it can kind of, if you think about it, you're paying, like, as a class $200 to like connect to a zoologist. But I mean, if you really break it down, like, there's probably tons and tons of zoologists out there that would do it for free, and that in itself, it's kind of like they would do it for free. So why not just reach out to other ones and just connect? And especially nowadays, post-COVID, a lot of people know how to set up Zoom. They can connect their kids and project it on a smart board. And at the end of the day, all it is the exchange of information. It's almost like a fireside chat, 21st century fireside chat. But with what I do, it's, there's a lot. It's the creation of content in front of a live studio audience, and even taking questions from that live studio audience. It's like a living, breathing textbook in real time. I really truly enjoy what I do.
And I can envision perhaps even I mentioned before, like a back end to this, where you have questions for kids to think about maybe before the session, and then a mini lesson plan or a way for teachers to kind of organize how they're going to bring in a speaker or a recording, right? So you can kind of start to envision how valuable something like this could be for school.
Yeah, I have students and teachers email me questions a lot all the time, and I'll give them preferential when I open up for like Q&A, and I'll ask that. And, as far as the lesson plan, because some of these, we have thematic units. I don't know, have you ever been a teacher?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So we have thematic units. So if the kids are learning about frogs, so the kindergartners, they're learning about frogs in science. They read a story about it in ELA, and they sing a song about it in music class, and then they add frogs in math class. So that frogs is the thematic unit that's going across subject content area. So with what I do is that it actually takes that and unfolds it in kind of like a three-dimensional way, to where the thematic unit is now vertical, to where like we'll have a NASA astronaut. So you'll have elementary school, like second grade kids, counting spaceships in math and learning about it in science and reading a story about an ELA. But then you'll also have 12th graders and college students on that same call. So you'll see some of these where you'll see a kindergartner ask an astronaut a question, but then you'll also see a high school student in Spain ask a question about space engineering or something. And so it's a thematic unit across different subject content area, but also across multiple ages and grades.
That is
so it's up to the individual teacher how they want to structure their lesson plans, because you can imagine I don't have time to write those lesson plans for them.
Absolutely. And kids can, I find kids incredibly creative. Like they'll ask things that you haven't even thought about, and it's just such a dynamic way to learn. And it's another way that you can actually bring children from different grade levels and different abilities together to have kind of this social experience.
It's almost like an educational potluck, where they just kind of bring their own questions and bring their own perspective and views.
Yeah, I definitely can see threads of like Reggio Emilia and Montessori and like different types of instructional models out there that seem to be kind of embedded in this very, what sounds like kind of organic, natural learning experience. I'm curious, because you've interviewed so many people, do you have like a couple of memorable experiences that stand out that you want to share?
I don't know. There's so many of them, and so they're all like super unique, and you come across all kinds of walks of life and interesting requests from teachers and students. We had one of my friends, he's a Holocaust survivor, and he was speaking at one of the campuses for his 89th birthday, but we were also broadcasting it to other campuses around the world. And so one of the students who was leaving at the physical event was like, hey, do you know anyone who's younger who went through what he went through? And I got in contact with a guy who was born in a North Korean concentration camp, who was around my age, who had escaped. And he did one, and through a translator. And then we were fortunate for him to come out to Las Vegas, and he met with the students, and I connected him physically with the Holocaust survivor. And there's these weird things, and it's not just that one, but where you just think, gosh, if I wasn't in this profession or doing what I'm doing right now, I never in a million years would I ever guess that I would connect a North Korean survivor with a Holocaust survivor, and then connect with World War II veterans and 9/11 survivors and authors and Oscar winners and Emmy winners and stuff like that, and connect these students to where we even had one where the girl was speaking to Dolph Lundgren about acting, and she was asking him about his acting process. She's now older and is now on a show on Hulu and is now a professional actor. And I didn't realize that. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I could pull back to the footage, and it's weird that, not saying that had a direct result, but maybe it had some influence, and it's a nice feeling, as a teacher,
You never know what children kind of latch onto. Sometimes it's just a sentence. Sometimes, like you said, they remember the way that somebody made them feel. And so that gives them that little extra bit of like encouragement to follow their dreams or their passions, or Yeah. I have to tell you, I'm envious of what you do every day. I feel like, oh my God, it's like the perfect job for someone who is insanely curious about everything in the world. Because, like you said, you get to speak to people from all walks of life and across all different industries. And
And you get to see people for people, like who they are, and like you know, converse with them, and then you like see them on TV or hear them on radio, or you know, whatever it may be. And you look a lot, your perspective is much different. I will say that. And it's I think that it's right place, right time. That's one of the main messages a lot of these guys have for students is I was just at the right place, right time. And I followed my passions. A lot of them say that I followed my passion. I didn't follow the money. And uh, you know, it's definitely a really great job. And I like being able to help inspire and educate and even entertain sometimes as many kids as I can.
that's great. Well, before I let you go, what do you have? What message do you have for teachers or schools who are interested in perhaps getting more involved with the work that you do?
Well, just don't be afraid to reach out. The worst thing that someone could say is no. Most of the time, they'll just ignore your email. But some of the time, they'll say no, and then you know, on occasion, they'll say yes, and you'll actually kind of develop. And some occasions, you'll develop friendships with these people, and you just some of my guests they'll come back year after year like clockwork because they appreciate me trying to keep their stories alive and not letting their stories die down. And just don't be afraid of that no. And if you have any questions, just reach out, and you can find my email through edutainmentlearning.com.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you, Ralph. This was super. I'm just always so interested to see the origin of programs like yours, and I have no doubt that you'll be doing this for as long as you want to, and probably for a really long time.
I hope so.